You know, in life, there's always one, isn't there? The wasp in the jam, the dissenting voice, the stubborn as a rock person who you have to go around in order to make any progress. Well, that used to be me when it came to inclusive document design, and you may wonder about that because I'm totally blind. Why on earth wouldn't I? Well, because I was a typist and I was well trained, and I resented the fact that my skills were not being needed any longer. So I clung to the two spaces after a full stop or a colon or the courier type fonts, all those sort of things that I'd been trained on, and the direct coding of headings. So tonight's talk really isn't going to give you all the answers about accessible document design. I can't. I've only got 10 minutes. What I hope to do is to tell you how I overcame my intransigence, tell you what you're fighting against, which is why accessible document design isn't particularly as well known as it might be. And as you can see down the bottom there, I'm on a mission to include everyone so that everything you write eventually would be accessible. That's why I said if you write, you need this. And give you just a toe in the water, introduce you to how accessible document design works. So how did I overcome my intransigence? Well, there are three ways to do it, and they are the standard ways, the standard elements of persuasion, I suppose you would say, from Aristotle. And we tend to use the first two in accessible arguments on accessibility. Pathos, of course, is the emotion. Oh, these people are missing out and you can't do that. That isn't right. Well, of course, that's valid. Or this is the right thing to do because it's good design. Garrett was just talking about good design, good practice. But I think there are some logical and technical reasons why we don't do document design inclusively. And I think there's one thing to blame about this. It's the past's fault. Blame the past. Because for 5 millennia, we've been writing like this. Pen on paper, stylus on tablet, chisel on tablet of stone, whatever. For 5,000 years, give or take, we've been writing by using a tool on a surface, and it doesn't matter what surface or what tool, you're limited by what you can do with those tools. And when we wanted to change a font or make a heading or something, we've just changed it on the fly, haven't we? And that's all been very fine, except the computer came along and things have changed. What I'm going to do now is just pause the share and keep on talking while we transfer to Microsoft Word so that I can show you what I mean. And you will start to hear JAWS, my screen reader. So I'll pause the share. Have I stopped sharing?
Not quite.
Ah, that's why. That's it. That's better. It helps to move to the right window, doesn't it? Okay.
So you're not sharing anything now, Kylie?
That's fine, yes.
It's probably the intention.
Okay, let's restart the share, and this time you will hear the sound of my screen reader.
Started screen share. Meeting controls.
I suppose you heard that. That is the sound of my screen reader. So you'll not only see me, but hopefully you'll hear, if you can hear, what I hear. I'm now going to go back into
Desktop. Folder view list view. Zoom. 32 of the.
Let's have a bit of a play.
Context menu. O. Open. O. Leaving menus. Folder view. Window list. Even old typist. Handout 1 docs word. Even old typist. Handout 0 docs word. Even old typist. Handout 0 doc. Menu. Leaving menus. Edit.
This, as you can see, is a block of text. Imagine if this text, which is only a few hundred words, was a few 100,000 words, and you had to navigate it. No index, no table of contents, and no headings. Believe it or not, I get presented with the equivalent of that often. I could read it from cover to cover, but that's all I could use it for. It wouldn't be actually usable, it will only be readable. And what tends to happen, because we've written in this way that we've been doing for 5,000 years, we tend to do this.
Even old typists. Even old typists.
Add a bit of bold, right? There's a problem with that. There's a couple of problems.
If you write even old typists.
Firstly, I can press undo.
Even old typists.
And
Ellipse typists. Old. Even. 12 point. Default on.
it's undone it. But if I had saved, I could do this again.
Even old typists. On.
And then I save. Now, let me try and...
Even. Old. Even.
I can't undo, but I could try clearing the formatting by going to the home.
Upper ribbon. Ribbon. Leaving menus. Leaving
formatting.
ribbons. Edit. V. E. 12 point. Default on default. Arial. Normal style. Line spacing. Single.
That works,
If you
but
write-
sometimes it doesn't, and it's not guaranteed to take it away from you. So what you're actually dealing with is the old tablet of stone or something similar, because it's not guaranteed.
Even old.
Let's go to a different version of this handout and I'll show you what I mean. Because the other problem's an even bigger one to my mind.
Window list dialog. Running up. Even old typist handout 1 docs word minimized. Even old typist handout 1 docs word. Edit. Menu. Leaving menus. Menu.
And
Expand collapse submenu. Expand collapse submenu. Leaving menus. Window list. Even old typist handout 2 docs word minimum. Even old typist handout 2 doc menu. Leaving menus. Edit.
right, let's have a look at these two documents.
Even old typist handout 1 docs word. Even old typist handout 1.
1 and 2, handout 1 and 2, they both look similar, don't they? You might think that I actually duplicated them by mistake. When I first did this once, a friend of mine actually swore in front of the presentation, it was a live one, face-to-face, not online, as it is now, that I had actually done that. But let me show you this.
Heading level 1 even old typists.
JAWS is telling me it's a heading, and if I wanted to prove that, I could just have a look here.
Heading list dialog. Headings
And
list.
move
If you
down to the
direct
headings
rock.
with
Stone tap.
JAWS.
The confused computer.
Could
Edit.
do that. Now, let me go to the other version.
Even old typist handout 2 docs word. Even old typists.
That looks like a heading to you, doesn't it? It's got bold and all that, except the computer, i.e. JAWS, and JAWS is part of the computer. It's a piece of software on the computer, so it only knows what the computer knows, doesn't know the difference. It thinks this.
Bolded. 18 point. Default on default. Tahoma. Normal style. Line spacing. Single. Paragraph formatting. Aligned left. Outline level. Body text.
Outline level body text, but your eyes can see it's a heading, but it's not. The computer thinks it's not a heading, even though you've made it one, and your eyes can see that it is. That's where you start to confuse your machine. And why is that important? Because if you try to be multimodal, as Gareth suggested, you're not going to be able to be. Because if you have a good foundation document with all the things built in, such as styles and
No headings.
Whoops. See? No headings. Let me just transfer to
Task
the
switching.
accessible
Even old
version.
typist handout 1.
And you have the
Style
styles
name,
pane.
edit.
This is your
Modify. Button.
this
Styles
is
button.
your toolbox. Everything in here: heading styles, list styles, table styles. So what you want is a flexible document, one that can be changed to suit the user, either by you if you want to convert it to PDF, or by the user if they have a style set that they want to use. So this has just given you a little toe in to how accessible document design works. It's all about flexibility, it's all about structure, and it's all about learning and not being intransigent as I was. Of course, you've got more of an excuse than I had because you're fighting 5,000 years of habit, which I didn't have. But I hope this has just given you a little introduction of what you might learn. There is a handout on the meetup page with my contact on it, and a very good website from a woman called Karen McCall from Carlin Communications, and she has a lot of teaching resources. But if you want live ones, give me a yell. I'll be very happy to help, so that one day everyone who writes will do it inclusively.
Even old type, meeting controls. Meeting controls.
Thank you so much for that, Kylie. That was a fantastic demonstration of a screen reader. I'm sure that's new for a lot of our attendees. So we're going to open up the Q&A for the attendees. So we'll just wait and see if any questions come through. But in the meantime, we have a question for you from our meetup. Would you say that your experience in accessing web content has changed for the better over the years or for the worse?
It hasn't really changed much at all, I'm afraid. It's about the same as it was. Technology has tried to keep up, but it's never going to. The only thing that's going to keep up is if we have the design correct. And in document accessibility, it's even worse. It's so much less known than web design is even, which is why I've chosen it. Lots of people are doing accessible web design, but hardly anyone's doing documents. And I think it's just as important because everything needs a structure, everything needs the right elements in the right place, whether it's an accessibility reason or not.
Thank you. Yes, so true. Lauren, do we have any questions from the Q&A panel?
Nothing's come through in the Q&A panel, but there was a comment in the chat just saying, telling us a bit more about how we can use screen readers as a tool to teach designers and developers, but also in this case, how can they use it to kind of show everyone what are your kind of recommendations to people in organizations doing demos and using that as a tool to show people how to kind of structure their documents?
Well, as I say, I've only just given you a tiny toe in the water. I'd suggest you go to the Carlin Communications website and get some of Karen's resources. She's taught me most of what I know. She's been doing this for many years. She's vision impaired. She's got a lot of good online self-paced individual teaching tools. So if you want to know initially, but I think you really need to have hands-on with this in a workshop style. And if you do want that, then do give me a yell. It's something you can try playing around with it, but use the right tool for the right job. Don't be tempted to use a table style for a heading, for instance, just because it looks good. And don't choose a heading 4 where you need a heading 3 because you like the style better. Make yourself up a template. The right tool for the right job, as Montgomery Scott of Star Trek says.
Thank you very much for that, Kylie. So with that, we want to say a huge thank you for the time and effort you put into that presentation. And we're going to go on to our next speaker,